Alright, Swamp Thing the Cedar is a volume 4 of the New 52 series, and this time we have Charles Soule taking over on the writing. Um, and I think that he's written a damn good follow up to Scott Snyder's run. I do intend to go back and review, or actually review, the entirety of Snyder's run in one video. Um, Rereading Rot World a second time, yeah, I've got some problems with it besides the really cartoony final issue for that series. Um, but if you wanted a good jumping on point for the New 52 Swamp Thing, it's definitely going to be in this volume. Um, so after the Rot World stuff, you will get filled in on this pretty quick. We have Alec Holland as the Swamp Thing. We finally straightened that out now. With Moore's run, we had the creature that thought that it was Alec Holland being his own creature for a long time. And with the New 52, we actually have Alec Holland himself as the Swamp Thing. And he's kind of adjusting to his life as being the avatar of the Green, now that all of the stuff with Arcane and the Rot is through. This collects issues 19 through 23, and it also collects 23.1, which is one of the Villains Month titles that the New 52 did. I was fucking surprised that they gave Arcane a Villains Month issue compared to a lot of the other bigger tier DC characters that had Villains Month issues, but this is good. Alright, so basically we have Alec going around and, at least for the first two issues, because there are two different story arcs going here, there's not really a big payoff for the stuff which is going to happen until the next volume. But what we do have here is a couple of issues that are just fun Swamp Thing stories. The first two issues are actually not really a superhero team up, but more of like a big misunderstanding. Basically, Alec goes exploring different places, and he decides to go to Metropolis and have a look around at this greenhouse that they have there. And he just happens to run into the Scarecrow, who I don't know why he's in Metropolis. Maybe going there because there are better chemicals for his fear toxins than those plants, but he's there. And the first half of the story is really hysterical, because the Scarecrow doesn't know what to make of this guy, and he's hitting Swamp Thing with fear toxin after fear toxin, and nothing's working. And just when he thinks he's fucked, it finally takes over and just knocks Swamp Thing out. And instead of inducing any kind of fear on him, it actually makes him dream. And he's having like all of these really horrible nightmares, and his powers are starting to flux and just, destroy things in Metropolis. And Superman takes notice of this, and he has to step in and try and stop it. So the second issue of this is not really anything more. It's not a superhero team up. It's just Superman trying to dodge Swamp Thing long enough to remove whatever's happened to him, and he and Swampy take the Scarecrow into custody after that, and that's really the extent of the team up. Swamp Thing is hardly involved in issue 20 at all until the end is like where, oh, did I do this? And Superman basically shows up to him and says, hey man, you really need to get with someone and learn how to keep your powers under control, because the Parliament really hasn't done anything to teach him about that. Which the story's fine for what it is, and then we're off with the start of this Cedar story, which is really what all this is about. We have this guy going around different spots of the world throwing out plant seeds, and he's causing massive influxes in the green to happen, and it's really throwing off balance in a lot of places. And it really makes you feel bad for characters that the Cedar has come along and helped misguidedly, and that Swamp Thing actually has to shut down. Like, there's this oasis that sprung up somewhere in one of the Arabian nations, and Swamp Thing actually has to swallow it back up into the earth because it's causing ecological problems elsewhere. And you feel really bad for the people that's been helped by this before. The sort of the last story arc in this is that we get this story that takes place in Scotland, and we get Constantine in here. I am not calling him Hellblazer in this because this is not the Constantine of old. This is toned down Constantine for the New 52, and it's kind of a point with a lot of the New 52 books now, since they planned on trying to give this character his own TV series. They've had him showing up in different books, popping up almost as much as everywhere as Wolverine does. And which, in this one, he's kind of the manipulative bastard in this one, which is at least the most that we get of old Constantine. The Cedar shows up in this town in Scotland, and he plants a tree which produces blooms of whiskey, and it's something in the power has corrupted the alcohol, and everybody's just having a fucking reenactment of the Maypole of Merrymount. And it's really funny. The story's good for the 2 issues that it runs, and I really enjoyed it. The last 2 issues of this are to where we get ready to actually have a confrontation with the Cedar, and then there's the Arcane story, which I'll do last. Swamp Thing does get ready to go and have a confrontation with the Cedar. He's kind of hinted as being someone that Swamp Thing knows, but we're not really sure who it is just yet. And while all that's going on, there's this girl that Swamp Thing meets called Capucini, I think is how you pronounce her name. She's someone who's been alive since the 1400s, and she's had people that have been trying to come after her and kill her so they can claim her immortality for themselves. And there's not really much given on her right now. I can definitely guarantee there's not much given about her for the next volume, because while they're dealing with the Cedar stuff over there, I've read up to issue 29 of the New 52 Swamp Thing. They still really have not explained where she's come from yet and why she's hanging around him. So that's a mystery that's going to linger for a while. So the confrontation with the Cedar in this is okay, and we establish in some ways that he does have a little bit of a fighting ability to him after what he does to Capucini. The last issue in this is the Villains Month issue with Arcane. And this is basically a follow-up to what happened with what was done with him by the Parliament of Decay after Rot World. If we ever really wondered what hell would look like for a villain who is just a completely disgusting creature who is obsessed with death and all that, we see that for Anton in this. I really like the hell that they come up with for him, and just the fact that no matter what he can't do or what he does, he can't get out of it. And then something really stupid happens in here, where we have to engineer his eventual return out of his prison back into the real world. Abby is the new avatar of the Rot, and she shows up there because she wants to get some information on her mother, and Anton is the only person still living with a connection to her past who could tell her that. And he's kind of trying to con her into giving him a little bit of the taste of the power again so he can remember what it's like. And like an idiot, she does that. She does, and it's just also an excuse to get a backstory on this new 52 Arcane. Which his backstory is interesting for the most part, and he does what he's saying about himself is true in this, and also the truth that he tells about her mother in this story is kind of a misdirection at first, and then he actually just comes out with the real truth, which is actually much more horrible for her to stand, which is really cool. And I really enjoyed the issue overall. Charles Soule definitely is showing himself to be a good writer on this. And we have this artist, we actually have two artists on here. Kano, who is, work is pretty good on this, but then we have Jesus Saiz on this book, who did the Cedar issues and did the Arcane issue, and his work is really fucking good. And I really enjoy seeing more of his stuff, and I hope that he stays with Soul on this for this run on Swamp Thing. Overall, the story is good for what you get with these little short snippets of Swamp Thing stories, but it's not really going to deal with the Cedar in question until the next volume, which is the Killing Field, and it'll become a lot more interesting then. But if you're been kind of hearing about Swamp Thing, you maybe want something to kind of pick up after a little bit of disappointment you might have with Snyder's run, or you've been thinking about the new 52 Swamp Thing, need a good jumping on point for the series, definitely recommend this trade.